Hey, this is Brandon, aka Coltranius. I'm making a video today by request, explaining how all of this stuff works. This is the Berglund Instruments NuRAD MIDI and CV wind controller. There are a lot of brands of wind controllers out there, a lot of really good stuff, lots of really great controllers out there. This one is a descendant of the original electronic wind instrument invented by this man right here, Niall Steiner, shown 3D printed playing his electronic valved instrument. They all have a similar way of working. What it comes down to is there is a tube here going down to a pressure sensor. The harder I blow, the more voltage comes out of that pressure sensor. And then there are onboard electronics that translate that voltage into some kind of control signal that controls something somewhere. Some of these have sounds built into them. This one does not. This is just a controller. It is powered by an Arduino Teensy. That's that little chip there. It's about the size of 2 postage stamps. These are capacitive touch sensors. The Arduino detects what combination of sensors are being touched and translates that into a note, and then sends that note out as either MIDI or control voltage. The configuration of the keys here are basically like saxophone, flute, or clarinet. They're all very similar. There are a few options here. You can set this up to be fingered like a brass instrument, like a trumpet. There's also a trumpet version of this called the EVI or EV. So the gist of it is I'm blowing into this and setting a pitch. Me blowing into this, I'm using to control things like volume and brightness of a sound, and then the pitch is just coming out just like a keyboard would. You know, you hit a key and the keyboard sends the note off to a synthesizer, and then the sound itself is determined by programming the synthesizer. So let's take a look at the synthesizer. All right, this is a pretty simple, despite all the knobs, this is a pretty simple analog synthesizer. If I take away all the modulation, right, it sounds pretty simple. Right, it's basically just a buzz. I can control the pitch of that buzz. Right, but right now, I only have control over the pitch, and it's just nonstop unless I turn the volume up here. So it's not very expressive. So the first thing that I might try doing is I moved this cable. This is my breath voltage coming into the synthesizer, and I'm going to use that to turn this knob. So when I blow, it's going to basically be simulating opening that or turning that knob. So I have some expressive control, but it's still pretty plain in my opinion. So how about instead of that, or in addition to that, I also control this knob over here. So before I get to that, let's just hear what it sounds like when I turn that knob. All right, so in addition to getting louder and softer, it gets brighter as it gets louder. Right? And then I can also do other things. I'm not going to go into the details of how the synthesizer works, but I can turn this knob, which adds resonance. And I can add some noise to that. Right, so we get a lot more control over it. And so this breath voltage coming into my synthesizer, I'm now going to plug it into something that just makes a copy of it. And I'm going to send that copy of it both to this first knob that I was turning to get volume, and then also to this big knob up here, which is filter cutoff. And then by turning this knob, I set how much my breath will affect this knob. And so now listen to this. There's a lot of expressive capability right there. All right, so that's the basis of breath-controlled synthesis. Now, just for fun, let's add some chorus, delay, and reverb here on our Zoia. So now let's hear that same sound. I've changed nothing on the synth, but I've added chorus, delay, and reverb on the Zoia. So there are a lot of sonic capabilities we're not touching on. I could make an hour-long video and still not exhaust the sonic capabilities of this synthesizer before we even get into the effects on the Zoia. I hope that gives you some insight into how this works. It's a very high-tech and complex-looking setup, but honestly, it's really quite simple. I'm breathing, and my breathing is essentially simulating turning knobs on this synthesizer, and that's the gist of it. All right, I hope that is informative. Thank you very much, and let me know if you have any questions.